Hello there, and welcome. Welcome to Manifesting. I'm Josiah Samuel Harry. I'm the author of Choose Love, Not Hate, and I Say Yes. So, I have a good one for you today. Let's talk about how I manifested not one, not two, not three, not four, but $500,000. Now, this is not a gimmick. In the video, I'm going to show you a bank receipt and I'll explain how I got up to that point. In order to understand how I got $500,000, how I manifested $500,000, it's important that I share the context. I don't want lost in the title any confusion about how this happened. I don't want there to be any misconstruction of what I would have said and any misapplication of the law of assumption, because we are talking about the law of assumption and how manifestation, which is an effect, came as a result of living in a particular state. Before I recount how I manifested $500,000, I want to talk about 3 points. I want to highlight 3 points that are important to understand if you want to manifest whatever desire you have in your heart. When we see videos of how people talk about how they manifested this, manifested that, whether it's money, a relationship, a special person, car, house, a raise, a new job, career, whatever that is, we have to understand that there's a context, a spiritual context behind everything. Everyone will not manifest $500,000 or $1 million or $1,000 for that matter, because that's not everyone's interest. In order to manifest something that you see, that something has to matter to you. You see, there are lots of folks out there saying and telling you that anyone can manifest anything. No, that's not true. Anyone cannot manifest anything. Because guess what? In order for you to manifest, let's use a new house, for example, a house on the beach. In order for you to manifest that house on the beach, you must first live in that state. So you're not going to arrive at the house on the beach if you were not abiding in the state of living from that place, from the wish fulfilled of seeing yourself at the beach house. Secondly, that is something that matters to you. If having a house on the beach does not matter to you, it does not matter what you repeat day in and day out. It doesn't matter what affirmation you say. You're not going to get that house on the beach because that's not something that naturally resides within your being, within your state of consciousness. For you to manifest something, you must first be one with that thing. So that's why everyone will not win the lottery. Everyone will not manifest $1 million. Everyone will not become a millionaire. Everyone is not going to have that new house, that new car, or that special person, because that's not everyone's desire. And even for those people who are pursuing those things, a great majority of those individuals are not going to get it because deep down, that's not what they want. Some people enjoy the simplicity of life, a minimalist lifestyle. So telling them about $100,000, $500,000, or $1 million has no appeal to them. So if that person decides, well, you know what, Jane won $1 million, Jane manifested $1 million, let's see if I can manifest $1 million. Well, that person can recite affirmations until they're blue in the face. That person can try all sorts of law of attraction, law of assumption techniques. It's not going to happen. Now, for 1 or 2 individuals, they might catch a break, but that's not the norm. Outside of that, most people, the great majority of people, are not going to manifest things that they see other people talking about because that's not what they truly want deep down. I personally manifested $500,000 because that's something I've been dreaming about and thinking about. That's a desire I've had for a long time. And prior to getting that $500,000 deposited in my bank account, that's something I thought about on a daily basis. So before I tell you how I manifested $500,000, let's talk about these 3 points. Number 1, whatever you desire to be, do, and have, You must live in that state. So that's number one. You have to live in the state of whatever it is you desire to be, don't have. So often people think and treat manifestation like it's a magic, what you call that? That, wish, like a genie. The three wishes, well, actually, it's more than three wishes. We say three wishes, but it was an unlimited amount of wishes if you know the actual story. So people treat the law of attraction, the law of assumption, as though it's a genie in the bottle. They rub that lamp, and something is going to appear. Some great entity is going to appear and grant them their wishes. That's not how the law of assumption works. That's not how the law of attraction works. In order to get your desire, in order for your desire to be transmuted on this screen of space, you must become one with that thing you wish to be, do, and have. You must live as that person who already possesses that thing every single day, every moment of the day. So we're talking about how I manifested $500,000. So let me give you the 3 points quickly. Number one, live in the state of what you want. Number two, be alert and aware of what is taking place around you. Number three, seize the moment. I'll first start with a story of how I manifested $100,000. Then I'll tell you how I manifested $500,000. And once again, I'll show you my bank deposit slip. So let me give you context into my background. So I'm a contractor. I'm in construction. So I was at this project and my brother invited me to join him on an upcoming opportunity that would be paying us, handsomely. So the project will last just a few months and would pay us in excess of $100,000. When my brother presented that opportunity, I told him, I'm like, that's too good to be true. I'm not sure about that. He's like, no, I'm serious. This is legit. And there's this opportunity for the both of us. And I said, are you sure? He said, listen, I've already made contact with individuals. I've already spoken to the person that's going to arrange for this to happen. This is real. Are you interested? So prior to that year, I lived in another state. And for years, my brother had been asking me to join him in the construction industry. He said, listen, I make decent money. You're not making any money. Why don't you come and join me? And you're talking about that you want to make money. And I had been talking about, making money. I had been admiring folks who had been making $100,000 studying their lives. And I'm like, man, $100,000 is a lot of money. I can't believe these folks are actually making $100,000. And I just thought $100,000 was an incredible amount of money. At that time, I was making like nothing. Like I was living in a state of lack, struggling, couldn't make ends meet. I'm at this stressful job, which I didn't realize was that stressful, but it was stressful. So my brother said, hey, you don't look well, slow down, take it easy. That job is not working for you and dude is killing you, like literally. It wasn't even a few days later that I ended up in the hospital because I had vertigo. I did not know, I heard of vertigo, but I'd never experienced vertigo. And until one day I showed up to my job and I was doing some inventory. So I got a ladder and I held the ladder to climb and the world just started spinning and going crazy. So, it just felt like that was the weirdest feeling in my life, like vertigo. I don't wish that on anyone. Listen, it was bad. I held on to the ladder and I just felt like I was falling. And so I threw myself down to the ground and I spread myself across the ground just to hold on to the earth and feel the earth and close my eyes and feel some level of stability. And that helped a little bit, but I got it right back up, which I shouldn't have. I should have stayed there, lying down a little longer. I got back up and I started throwing up. I told the guy I was working with, whose name is also Joe, I said, listen, man, I'm checking out for the day. So I immediately went to the hospital. I checked myself into the ER and the doctor eventually saw me. And the nurse asked me a very interesting question. She said, have you started a new job or something that's adding a bit more stress than you used to? I said, well, I work 10, 12-hour days, sometimes 14-hour days, but the responsibility, the role has gotten 10 times more than what I care for. So after all the lab work, EEG, EKG, CAT scan, all of these things, everything came back normal. The doctor said, listen, you're in good health, you're in tip-top shape. That job may not be for you. And remember, my brother had been telling me this for days now. So I went back to that job, and a few days later, my brother said again, "Hey, Joe, this job starts at this date. You have to give me a decision within 24 hours or I'm going to have to find someone else." Which means I had to quit this job, which was paying me $110,000 a year. Remember, I was talking and dreaming about making $100,000, earning $100,000. And here was this job that was paying me $110,000 a year. So in my mind, why would I quit this job that I had been thinking about all these years? That doesn't make any sense. And my brother said, "Listen, man, there's something better out there for you, and not all money's good money." And I'm like, "Man, but I'm making $110,000. This is something I've been dreaming about for years. What are you talking about?" He's like, "Dude, are you willing to compromise your health for $110,000? You're making that in a year. We can make that in a few months." And after a few minutes of conversation, I said, "Listen, sign me up, put my name down. I'm going to join you on this opportunity." So that evening, I returned the truck, returned the key, I entered the code, went to the gate. I turned in everything that I had that belonged to the company. I went on the computer and I submitted my immediate resignation. And I started working with my brother on that project. And within 6 months, we made close to $200,000. Now, let's talk about how I manifested $500,000. Keep in mind that the 3 principles that I mentioned earlier are still present in this, and the only way that I was able to realize the $500,000 was in keeping in tune with these 3 principles. So now I've earned $100,000. I'm earning greater than $100,000, and the next step for me was $500,000. Now, of course, I had $1 million in mind. And I did eventually earn $1 million, which I'll talk about a little later. So $500,000 was my next target. And it was easy for me to think about $500,000 because I had done $100,000. I had done $200,000. And for me, there was a natural progression of my life moving into quantum leaps of increasing my earnings potential. And you know what's funny? After I got the $500,000, I told myself, "Josiah, why didn't you say $5 million or $50 million or $500 million or $5 billion? Why did you settle only for $500,000? And this brings me to another point, which I didn't plan to include, but I'll tell you anyway. Aim for the impossible. Because all things exist. That's the law of assumption. The law of assumption says all things exist. And because all things exist, all you have to do is tap into your imagination, live from your imagination, become one with that desire. And of course, that thing has to be natural for you. If it's natural for you, you're living in that state and you're persistent in that thought, in seeing yourself as already having accomplished that desire. It's going to come to you. And as Neville loves saying, the vision has its own appointed hour. It ripens and it will flower. If it be long, then wait, for it is sure and it won't be late. Your manifestation will come to you. You have to persist. You must persist every single day. And remember, whatever belongs to you is already done. It's already yours. But you're not going to get what does not belong to you. So if you're trying to manifest $1 million because you saw someone else on YouTube or wherever else, one of your friends manifested $1 million, but that has never been a part of who you are, that has never been a part of your state of consciousness, you're not going to get that $1 million. So what you want has to be in harmony with who you are. It has to come from within. It has to be an abiding desire, an abiding yearning, an abiding longing that lives within the depth of your soul. So the 3 points: live in the state of what you want, be alert and aware of what's taking place around you, and seize the moment. So here's a story. So I was in this project in Southern California, and this project was one of my favorite projects to date, hands down. I worked with incredible people, and I was blessed from this project to meet someone who would end up being my mentor, Steve. And Steve is still in my life. When there are hard questions and I come to an impasse on one of my construction projects, I call Steve, and Steve always has an answer. Steve always guides me on the right path, and I'm grateful for him. So I'm on this project, and remember, we're talking about living in the States. So I've been thinking about, hey, my next step is $500,000. I dismissed the hows very quickly, because when you start thinking about the how is equivalent to doubting. That's all it is. When you're thinking about the how, you've given doubt permission to dwell and camp in your mind. I have a set rate of what I'm earning, and it's nowhere close to $500,000. It's in the six-figure range, but nowhere close to $500,000. However, I'm still living in that state of earning $500,000, and I knew $500,000 would come from this project. On contract, my contract was nowhere close to $500,000, but in my mind, I had already earned $500,000 from this project. How do we align those two things? Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what my reality told me. In my mind, this project paid me $500,000. So 1 year came and went, no $500,000. Like, okay. I wasn't disappointed. I wasn't dismayed. I wasn't feeling hopeless because I lived from that state. Every day I woke up, I knew that somehow I was going to get $500,000. And not over a span of time, I was going to get $500,000 in a lump sum. I was very specific. I didn't want $500,000 over the course of 3 years, over the course of 1 year, over the course of 3 months. I wanted $500,000 in one sitting. So now I'm living in that state. We're going back to principle number 1. I'm living in that state of fulfillment and completion, believing that I'd already had $500,000 deposited in my bank account. On year 2 on that project, I was walking, and it's a huge project. So I'm walking on one side of the project, and this guy would come in and fuel all of our generators. I could have jumped to the conclusion that this guy didn't have $500,000, and he would not be the person to write me a check for $500,000. But guess what? The opportunity that I talked about seizing, he was that opportunity. He presented himself as chance, as luck, as serendipity, as that opportunity, that hidden gem I was able to grasp because I was paying attention to what was happening around me. And I seized the moment. And in having a conversation with him and him telling me all that he did on the side, I found it so interesting and fascinating. So he knew I ran the project, and he's like, there's more to you also. He's like, who are you? I said, listen, I'm a contractor. I recently got my license. I don't have any contracts. I'm not looking for any contracts, but if you know of any opportunities, send them my way. And he smiled and he immediately told me, hey, I work for this guy who I've done work for many years, and he's actually looking for someone because he has some work that he needs done. Why don't you give him a call? And he gives me this guy's number. And I called the guy that same day, met with the guy that same day. And after a few weeks of conversation, $500,000 was deposited in my bank account. So there are a lot of things that happen between the initial conversation with this individual and me getting $500,000. So lots of things happen in between. But the point of all that I'm saying still comes down to these 3 principles. Live in the state of what you desire. How do you do that? You think about that every day. See yourself as that person every day. You're not thinking about it in the context of thinking about it. You're thinking from the state as someone who has already lived that life. So when I say think about it, I'm not thinking about how you're going to earn whatever it is you desire. In my case, I wasn't thinking about earning $500,000. I was dwelling in the state of a person who had already earned $500,000. That's the difference. To manifest what you want is not enough to think about what you want. You must think from what you want. You must think as your fulfilled and accomplished self. That's the way you live in the state of consciousness. You live in the state as that person who has already realized your definite chief aim, dreams, and ambitions. Number 2, be aware of what's happening around you. Pay attention to the happenings in your life. Don't take anything for granted. Don't take anyone for granted. I could have concluded that that guy was just a truck driver, just a fuel delivery driver, and missed out on my opportunity. But when you live from the state of your desire, from your mission and purpose, you start being alert to everything that's happening around you. No conversation is a regular conversation. No meeting is a regular meeting. You stopping at that traffic light at that time is not an accident. You leaving the house earlier than usual is not an accident. You leaving the house later than usual is not an accident. Your boss asking you to work a little later than usual or coming earlier than usual, that's not an accident. That bridge of incident that Neville talks about is being formed to take you from where you are to where you desire to be. And that construction only happens as you live in that state. As soon as you choose to no longer live in that state, that construction stops. That bridge of incident disappears. So because I was living from that state as one having already earned $500,000, the bridge of incident started being built that would take me across from where I was to my desire, bringing me to my $500,000. Neville says all desires have within themselves the power of expression and fulfillment. All desires have the solutions. All desires already come with the how figured out. So it's not your job to figure out the how. It's not your job to wonder about how things are going to happen. The fact that that desire came to you tells you that that desire has already worked itself out. Seize the moment. You got to seize the moment. You can only seize the moment when you're aware of the moment. Don't dismiss anything. Don't dismiss anyone. Don't look at anything as trivial. Seize the moment. Become one with all. Allow all to become one with you. Whatever you want is for you. Nothing can stop that. No one can stop it. Whatever you want is for you. And remember, whatever follows I am, you become.